Brides for Benjamin. Well, we're at the end of the book of Judges. This is the last story, which is strange in one way, in the fact that it actually happened near the beginning of the book of Judges. When the army went to Bethel, where the Ark of God was at the time, it names who was high priest. He was the grandson of Aaron, and he became high priest near the end of Joshua's life. So it happened sometime in his lifespan after Joshua died. This is the only, for a little bit of trivia here, this is the only time in the book of Judges where the Ark of God is even mentioned. It talks about the army going behind Gibeah and hiding. Well, there's plenty of places to hide. This is all built at the of a hill that's at the top of a mountain, and it has all these limestone caves around it. So there's plenty of places to hide. When Jordan still owned the West Bank, the king of Jordan went to this very spot where King Saul had his palace. And the king of Jordan started building his own palace right there. Then the war broke out, and Jordan lost the West Bank. And so to this day, the beginnings of that structure is still there. It's not a tourist site, but I have enjoyed going there and walking around, knowing that I was at the very place where King Saul had his palace and where David served him, and all the stories about Jonathan happened right there. Well, this story talks about an extreme form of warfare. They go in, they kill all the people, men and women, children, where they kill all the animals, and where they burn everything that they own. Extreme. As a matter of fact, the people, even the victors, didn't like it. It was disgusting to them because they got nothing out of it. They didn't get any loot. They couldn't have there was no animals. There were no slaves. There was nothing. An extreme form. We were telling this story when we were in Israel one time, and someone in the crowd became just upset about how those girls were treated and how the men jumped out of the vineyard and grabbed those girls and whisked them away, and that was just awful. Well, you got to give them a little bit of leeway here. The idea of stealing brides was not all that uncommon in the old ancient world. In fact, women, as you know, during that time, they didn't get to choose who they would marry. That was up to dad. Oftentimes, the bride would not meet her future husband until the actual wedding. So you might say that when that young, strapping man jumped out of the vineyard and grabbed her and whisked her away, she might have thought, well, she knew who dad was going to pick out, some old guy that, and that this guy probably looked pretty good. And so it was probably not as bad as what you might think. In fact, the weddings of that day and age kind of paint this picture. After the dowry is settled between the two families and everything's all set, the young man went home to prepare a place on his father's estate. And when the time came, then he would go to steal his wife. She knew it was coming. She got all decked out, but in the last minute, and then as he was coming, they were making lots and lots of noise, saying, "I'm on my way." And so then she'd go out in the yard underneath a tree or something like that, alone, while the family was inside. Then he would come and steal her. Well, after the official stealing, then they'd all go inside and have a party with the bride's family. At that point, then, they would go with a lot of noise again, going back to the groom's house where they'd actually have the wedding. So even in that, the stealing the bride was a part of their culture. And these young women, 600 women that were given to these 600 Benjaminites. Think about this. One of those women became the ancestor of the first king of Israel, King Saul. One of those women became the ancestor of the Apostle Paul. Matter of fact, all of them were ancestors to many of the Jews that live in Israel today. You talk about the lost tribes of Israel. Well, Benjamin's not one of them. People there know if they're from the tribe of Judah or if they're from the tribe of Benjamin or Levi. Well, come back when we give you more insights on the story.